Welcome everyone to Actionstep's webinar on automation. Keep your work flowing with automation. Today we'll have a short welcome and introduction, and then I'll be covering a variety of topics related to automation, and then there will be a demonstration and a brief conclusion. Today's webinar will demonstrate how you can use automation tools to improve efficiency and profitability. Our software adapts so you don't have to. I'm Christie Dillon. I'm a Customer Success Manager with the Customer Success team here at Actionstep. I work with clients to help them optimize usage of Actionstep software solutions so they can improve productivity and achieve their business goals. Joining me today is Natasha Dubauskas, a customer success specialist here on our customer success team at Actionstep. Natasha comes from the legal industry, so she has a wealth of experience in how to use Actionstep to obtain the maximum benefit for your law firm. She's more than willing to offer expert advice, hints, tricks, and tips, so please feel free to reach out to her at natasha.dubauskas-reed@actionstep.com. Also joining us today is Gwen Otwell. She's a product manager here at Actionstep, and her role is to identify potential new features and improvements within Actionstep, and then she works closely with our engineering and marketing teams as those features are developed and released to our users. Currently, Gwen looks after accounting, billing, and trust features, and she's been with Actionstep for 7.5 years. The topics being covered today are what is automation and how can it help me, tasks, workflows, and Zapier. To start out with, let's talk about automation. By automating your processes, you eliminate bottlenecks that lead to lost time and revenue. Business process automation can help improve accountability, transparency, and enable accurate data recording. With automation, we can reduce costs and time as well as increase productivity. Tasks. Actionstep allows you to create your own task management system to track tasks, time, and easily collaborate with your team. These are efficient for individuals, teams, and organizations to help you complete tasks without missing deadlines. Tasks allow you to manage everything from your Actionstep system, understand your priorities, manage your own and your staff tasks. You can also access your data from anywhere, anytime, and that makes it easier for you to delegate. Workflows. Actionstep workflows are at the heart of our practice management system. You can build your matter processes into the system in a series of steps, decision trees, and tasks. With tailored workflows, you can ensure everything is checked off before moving to the next step. The benefits of workflows include efficiency, consistency, and refinement. Zapier. Zapier is an online tool that helps you link different applications together. It enables you to not just automate Actionstep, but also automate other web-based applications like Outlook, MailChimp, Teams, and even other Actionstep systems. Applications communicate with each other using zaps. You can create your own zap or choose from a list of existing zaps. You create zaps by connecting triggers in one application to actions in another application. When something changes in one application, for example, if a new appointment is created in a Google Calendar, a trigger is activated. The zap connects the trigger to an available action in the other system. In this case, creating a file note. The zap passes the related information from the trigger to the action, the new appointment in the Google Calendar. And now I'll pass this over to Natasha for a demonstration.
Hi everyone, this is Natasha from Customer Success, and I'm just going to take you through how we create a matter type or a workflow. So we go to admin matter types. So the admin up here with the spanner. And then we go to matter types here. And these are our workflows. Over here, there's a green button, create new matter type. And that's where we're going to create our matter type. And it's called client engagement. Now, this is an onboarding workflow, which is something that all our clients and customers come through in order to lead to engaged work. So especially for multi-practice firms, this is where all of our customer inquiries come through, and then they're distributed once engaged to actual paid workflows. So if we hover over these question marks, that will give you a bit more information about what each option means and whether you want to turn them on or off. We can also choose a different icon, which really relates to our workflow. And it's something you really want to do because it's an immediate visual of that workflow. So you can have a bit of fun with that, and it creates some individualization for your system. We then choose a number of matter settings, which if you go through and look at the question marks, it should be quite self-explanatory. And then there's copyright information, which you only really need to worry about if you're creating a workflow to be sold on the marketplace. And we always have to make sure that we have at least one participant that's a primary participant when we're creating a workflow. So I'm just going to put client and lawyer in for now, and I'm going to hit save, and that will create my new workflow. So my new workflow is here, and I'm going to click on that, and we're going to come into another range of options about our matter type. And we're going to look at here at workflow, because what we're going to build is the actual steps we'll move through in relation to this matter type. So we can click on the word workflow or also on the manage box. They both lead to the same place. Okay, so you'll see here where we have a diagram of our workflow. And this is the order of the steps that we take. Over here is where we create our steps. So the first thing we need to do is create some new steps. And I advise that you use a mind map or any sort of drawing program to think about the flow of your matter type before you start. What's our major milestones? What steps do we have to get through to get this job done? And we want our workflow to be really high level. So we don't want to get confused with tasks. Steps can have a number of tasks that you need to fulfill that milestone, but a step should be very high level and it should be really easy to navigate through. You don't want to overcomplicate a workflow. You want it to be really simple. And then you build in tasks and those sort of automations within the steps itself. But the workflow itself should be as simple as you can get it to be. So first of all, we create our new steps, and hopefully you've got a list written down of your steps and the way they're going to flow. So I have preparation, consult, engaged, and not proceeding. So if I hit save, each line will be created as an individual step. So that's created my steps, but as you can see, my workflow is still the same. And this is where we start adding our steps into our workflow so that it makes sense. So if I click on start, the next step I actually want to put in would be preparation. So start the next step, preparation, and it starts at the start of the workflow. So I'm going to hit save. Okay, so we go start preparation. So after preparation, logically, I would want to go to consult. So here are the different types of steps that we can add. So our next step is just like this one here, our next logical step. And you can turn that on. A jump step is where we want to jump to a step that's already in the workflow. So I will use it later on to show you how that's used. And there's also an alternate step, and that's where we can be doing one thing or another. So you can interchange the steps. So the next step I want to add is consult and then hit save. Now if I open this little triangle here, we can see that workflow that's coming. So after consult, we would hope that we would go to engaged. Not proceeding, engaged. Okay, so that makes sense for me as a workflow. However, when we're after the consult, our client can engage or they cannot proceed. That's the only option we have there. So as an alternate step to engaged, so you can see here we have alternate step turned on. I'm actually going to put not proceeding. So they can choose one or the other. And then from those, it will then go to closed. So we're going to put a next step and we're going to add our closed step. Okay, so with everything going right, this is the way our workflow should work. However, if we think about it, if we start and we take an inquiry, however, that client never comes back to us, they never actually have a consult, our staff would have to go through all these steps to get to the close step. So maybe what we want to do is be able to jump to close. So this is where we use our jump step. Because closed is already in our workflow, we just want to jump to it. So a way for our staff to immediately close down this matter. So I'm going to add a jump step, and that's here, the close step. So have a look what happens when I save that down. So from start, we can go to prep, or we can go a jump step to closed. However, what will happen in our workflow is closed will appear before preparation, and I actually want it to appear after, because I would hope that we spend more time going from start to preparation than straight to closed. Closed is there optionally. So again, if we have a look, you'll see here that we have weight. Now, weight defines where it is in the order of the step tree. The higher weight appears first. So I want preparation to appear first, and I want the jump step to appear last. So if I hit save, now you can see that it appears at the bottom, which is exactly where I want it. So that is my workflow. And what we're going to do now is I'll take you through how that looks. We'll create a test one. Okay, so we're going to create this matter. And here you'll see our steps that we've created. So we can go to preparation or we can jump to closed. And if we go to preparation, we can change step. And we can go to consult. And we can change step. And we can go to engaged, or we can go to not proceeding. And then we can go to closed. Okay, so once we're happy with our workflow, it's then that you can start to build in the other automation from the steps. And that automation can be found by clicking on the step, and then you can build automation in here. For example, the file notes, adding parties, document templates, emails, tasks, and custom data, and collecting those on the steps.
Hi, Gwen here with a few demonstrations around creating tasks and working with tasks in Actionstep. So to get started, I'm going to go over how to create, edit, or delete manual tasks. So manual tasks are great if you want to make sure that you can assign tasks to users on maybe a one-off basis, or maybe in a basis that is just not something that you're going to build into your normal workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and select my Quick Create button, and I'm going to go ahead and select task. All right, so first I'll be prompted with a task name. So I might say, all right, so I want to go ahead and make sure that another member of the staff prints an EP packet ahead of a signing meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and assign this to one of my colleagues. And I will leave priority as normal. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and up the priority to give the user a chance to maybe filter by priority when they are completing tasks. But for my purposes, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a normal level of priority. I can also set what we call fixed or relative task due dates. So for example, I could say this task is due by July 13th, or I could say that this task is due 2 business days or calendar days ahead of, and I'm going to go ahead and say that EP signing meeting. So this is going to allow me to set the due date relative to some key dates in my workflow. Now, the fixed dates can be used at any point in Actionstep. Your relative due dates will depend on you having some custom dates set in your Matter workflow. So you'll want to make sure that you're tracking your key dates in your workflow prior to using these relative dates. All right, and then from here, I'm going to go ahead and if I want to, I can populate the description using one of our quick codes. I'll go ahead and leave that for today. And then if I wanted to, I could also go ahead and set reminders. So I might go ahead and say, remind me to do this, and we will say 1 day before it's due. And I have the opportunity to receive that reminder via email, pop-up, or SMS. I can also say that this needs to be done on or prior to a certain step. So I might go ahead and say this must be completed on my signing meeting step. And that's just going to ensure that users won't be able to progress past that step unless they have the chance to complete this task. All right, and then if I wanted to record a task that had already happened and I had already completed, maybe just to show other staff members, a supervisor, or anyone else internally that that task is completed, or to create a time entry upon the completion of that task, I could go ahead and say mark is complete. I am going to go ahead and select the option to create a time entry once this task is completed. But for our purposes, I won't say this is completed just yet. I'm just going to go ahead and select save. All right, so now that we have that task created, let's talk about where we can go to edit or delete it. So I am going to go into my task list on my Matter, though I could just as easily go into my task list on the global menus. So I could go into my tasks and incomplete, but I will go ahead and go into my Matter task list. Okay, perfect. And I can see that this task is in red. So that's going to indicate that a task is overdue. So it looks like I actually set that task for an earlier date. And I'm going to go ahead and select my task and I'm going to edit it. So, I've mistakenly set this for an earlier date since my signing meeting date was set for July 11th. So I might go ahead and set this for a later date, and I'll go ahead and select save here. All right, and so I've gone ahead and selected that task and successfully edited it. Now, if there was a task that I wanted to delete, I could go ahead and I'm going to unselect the task that we just edited, and I'm going to go ahead and select that task that I want to delete, and then I will go ahead and select delete from there, or I can actually also go into the task itself and then select delete in the bottom left-hand corner. Now this is going to ask me for a reason that I am deleting this task. So I'm just going to go ahead and say not needed, and then I will delete that task. All right, so now that we've had a chance to take a look at how we can create manual tasks, let's take a look at how we can create automatic tasks. So an automatic task is something that would be assigned to one of my users when I'm moving steps in a workflow. So an automatic task might be something that you as an organization say you have to do every time you reach a certain step in the workflow, or you may do every time you reach a certain step in a workflow, because as we will see, the automatic tasks can be marked as mandatory or they can be marked as optional. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into my admin menu and then my matter types and estate planning. From here, I'm going to go into workflow. Since my tasks are going to be always associated with moving steps in the workflow, I'll want to go ahead and select the step in the workflow where I'm going to assign that task. So I'll say initial meeting. And then from here, I want to make sure under step actions that tasks is toggled on. And I can see that it is here. And then from here, I just want to go ahead and select create new task. All right, so we're going to see a similar screen here that we saw on our manual creation screen, but there's going to be a couple of differences. So first, I'm going to indicate who the task is going to be assigned to. And you'll notice when we were creating manual tasks, we were assigning tasks to individual people. So I might be assigning tasks to Joe or to Dakota. When I am creating tasks in the workflow, I'm assigning those tasks to roles. So that assumes that someone is occupying that role on that matter. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this task is going to be assigned to the client coordinator. And then if I want to, I can indicate who that task is assigned by, but that's going to be an optional step. And then I can determine whether or not this is a required step. So if we don't make this step required, that means that a user can choose not to assign that task when moving steps or not to complete that task in the progress or process of progressing through the workflow. Again, we can set our priority. So if we wanted to say that this is a high priority task, we could do that. And we can also use our quick codes. So I can indicate the description by entering one of my quick codes. But I'm going to go ahead and say call client to confirm information submitted in EP packet. And then if I want to add any additional description here, I can go ahead and do that. Now, one thing that we'll see here is that we don't have those fixed dates that we saw in the manual task assignment. And the reason for that is your task due dates will always be relative to either the custom dates that you have set up in your workflow or your step changes. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and say that this task is due 1 day after you move to this step. Now I can choose to link my tasks to data collections or document templates, and I can also choose to tag my tasks. Linking them to document templates can be really helpful if maybe the task entails generating a document. Linking tasks to data collection can be very helpful if, say, the task relates to populating fields in the data collection, and linking tasks to tags can be very helpful if you want to be able to sort your tags or sort your tasks by certain tags. We can also see that we have the ability to say that certain tasks have to be completed before certain steps or on certain steps. And we also have that option to link to a time entry, and that will allow us to populate some information about that time entry once it has been created. But I'm going to go ahead and keep this simple today, and I will go ahead and select Save here. All right, so we've created that automated task. Let's talk about task notifications. So if I wanted to create some notifications for my automated tasks that I have just created, I can go ahead and select the notification tag and then say add notification. All right, so here we can see a number of different types of notifications that we can create. So one thing that I might want to do is notify the attorney listed on the case when a task has been completed. So maybe a particular attorney wants to know via email when we have confirmed those details with those clients. So I might go ahead and say email, and then I can choose an email template, or I could actually just choose the default. Now you'll notice that we can use a number of triggers for notifications. So for example, I can say on task created, on task completed, on task changed from completed, and on task due date. So there's a range of options there, but you'll have similar notification options once you select those. So I'm going to go ahead and select save here. All right, and then we can see that that notification has been created. And so we can add an additional notification or we can exit out of there. And then once we refresh and go back into that initial meeting, we'll see that one notification has been created. Okay, so if we wanted to maybe remove an automatic task from our workflow, we could do so very easily from here as well. So I might go ahead and select that task that I had just created and then go ahead and select delete. And again, we will be prompted for the reason for that deletion. So I will say, and then we can delete those. Okay, so we've taken a look at how to create tasks manually and how to create those tasks and associate them with a workflow. Let's go ahead and talk about how we can report on our own tasks or our staff's tasks. So there's a few different ways that we can do that. One of them entails creating those notifications that we just set up. So those can be used as sort of a method of reporting to other staff members, to ourselves, to superiors about the status of our tasks.
Hi everyone, Natasha from Customer Success again, and I'm just going to show you a automation that I've built with Zapier. So this is just an example of one. Obviously, sky's really the limit. With Zapier, there's a number of different applications that can be integrated together, but this is just an example of one. So in this example, this is an immigration application. So we can see our workflow here. And I'm going to the close step. So I've actually finished the application. Now the visa expiry is here and the visa type, I'll just write in. Now, when I hit change step, it's going to close down this matter for me because it's finished. Okay, so that's happened. Now I've built a Zap and I'll take you through the Zap that I've built. So what we've said in our Zap is we want it to trigger when that matter step change happens in Actionstep. So I've set it up to trigger when there's a step change. So every time there's a step change, this triggers. Now we can see here that the link step ID is 741 in my test matter. So this is the ID of the action type, and this is the step. So then I've put a filter on. And this says I only actually want this Zap to work when the link step ID exactly matches 74-1. And that's because 74-1 is my matter type, which is the immigration application type. And 1 is actually the close step. this one here. So this says I only want this to go through when I'm shutting down these matters. I then want to go through and I want to find my primary participant contact. So that's my client. I then want to find the matter that where it was closing down, where it belonged to. And then there's two custom fields that I want to find. And one is visa expiry, which is what we entered when we closed. And the next one was visa type, which is what we entered when we closed. And then what I want to do is retrieve that custom value from that step. So if I have a look here at the test action, and we look down, we'll see that the value is here. That was the visa expiry. So once I've retrieved those, I then want to create a contact in ActiveCampaign. And what I want to do is I want to add that contact to the subscriber list, and I want to put in some details. So I'm going to put in the email address, the name, the first name, and also that expiry date and the type of visa that they have. So I'm going to send all that data through to ActiveCampaign. And you can see that it comes across here. Okay, so we can see Andy Peterson, the one I just did, has come across. Now what happens is here in ActiveCampaign, I've actually created an automation. So what will happen is when my client is added to this list, I then have this organized so that I can send them follow-up reminders without me doing anything. So automatically, 60 days before that visa expiry, they get an email. If they click a link in the email, which is to book a meeting with me, let's say, then it ends the automation. If they don't, I'll send another one 30 days out, and I could send another one 14 days out. And all of this can happen without me physically doing anything. So that was just a very handy way of setting that up that I thought I would share with you as an example for what we can use Zapier for. Now, there is a lot of help guides we've put together on building Zapier, and there's a whole Zapier webinar and workshop that you can access from our help center. And also we'll be running an Ask an Expert session where you can ask me some questions about how to build these apps. So I hope everyone does have a look at those resources and then come with any questions to the Ask an Expert session.
And here's our conclusion. Everyone who registered for this webinar will receive a video recording. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at customersuccess@actionstep.com. Thanks so much for joining us today.